In today's episode, we're looking at 5 people that were ripped apart after taking pictures with animals. From a wildlife intern who got too close to a mountain lion for an Instagram shot, to a teenager who thought teasing a caged chimpanzee would make for viral content. But first, let's begin with the first story, where a young woman's passion for big cats led her one step too far into danger. It was May 19, 2016, and the Northern California hills were bathed in golden afternoon light. The private wildlife rehabilitation center sat nestled among towering redwoods and rolling grasslands, about 40 miles north of San Francisco. The facility specialized in caring for injured and orphaned native wildlife, with spacious enclosures designed to give recovering animals a taste of their natural habitat while maintaining safety. Grace Redmond had been working at the center for 3 months, and every day felt like a dream come true. The 24-year-old environmental science graduate from UC Davis had always been passionate about wildlife conservation, but her true love was felines. She applied to the rehabilitation center specifically because they occasionally cared for mountain lions, and she'd spent countless hours observing their current resident, a 2-year-old male named Ranger who'd been brought in after a car accident left him with a damaged hind leg. The rehabilitation center was built with safety as the top priority. Each enclosure featured double barrier systems with primary fencing reinforced by secondary barriers that kept visitors and staff at safe distances. The mountain lion enclosure was particularly secure, with 12-foot-high chain-link fencing topped with razor wire and a concrete moat surrounding the perimeter. Mountain lions are North America's second-largest wild cat, capable of reaching weights of up to 220 pounds and lengths of 8 feet from nose to tail. They're solitary territorial predators with incredible strength and agility, able to leap vertically up to 15 feet and horizontally over 40 feet. Their powerful jaws can deliver a bite force of 400 pounds per square inch, and their retractable claws are designed for gripping and tearing flesh. Grace had been assigned to evening cleanup duty, preparing food and ensuring all enclosures were secure for the night. Ranger's enclosure was her final stop, and as she approached with his evening meal, she noticed he was positioned near the front of the enclosure, closer to the barrier than she'd ever seen him. The mountain lion appeared calm, lying in a relaxed position with his injured leg stretched out. Grace pulled out her phone for photos, initially shooting from the designated safe distance behind the secondary barrier, but the shots weren't quite right. The chain-link fencing created shadows, and the distance made him appear less impressive. She moved closer to the primary enclosure fence, where the lighting was better and the angle more dramatic. What Grace didn't notice was that a section of the primary fencing had been damaged during recent maintenance work. A gap had opened between 2 fence panels, creating an opening just wide enough for a mountain lion's paw to reach through. The gap was partially hidden by vegetation, but Ranger had discovered it days earlier. Grace positioned herself directly in front of the gap, holding her phone at arm's length for a selfie with the mountain lion in the background. She was focused entirely on her phone screen when Ranger suddenly rose to his feet. In one explosive motion, he lunged toward the fence. Ranger's massive paw shot through the gap, his claws extended and razor sharp. The paw caught Grace's outstretched arm just above the wrist, and his claws sank deep into her flesh, piercing muscle and scraping against bone. The force of his strike pulled her forward against the fence, and his grip tightened as he began dragging her toward the opening. Grace's phone flew from her hand as she was yanked against the chain-link barrier. Ranger's claws raked down her arm, tearing through skin and muscle as he tried to pull her through the gap. His other paw emerged through the opening, catching her shoulder and driving his claws deep into her chest and neck. The mountain lion's powerful muscles strained as he attempted to drag his prey through the narrow opening. Grace's body was pressed against the fence, her arm and shoulder partially inside the enclosure where Ranger could reach her with his teeth. His jaws clamped down on her forearm, his canine teeth puncturing arteries and crushing bone. Ranger maintained his grip, his predatory instincts fully engaged. His teeth found her neck, delivering a crushing bite that severed her corroded artery and caused massive hemorrhaging. Within minutes, her movement ceased entirely, but the mountain lion continued his attack, driven by millions of years of evolutionary programming. The evening shift supervisor discovered the scene nearly 2 hours later during routine security rounds. Grace's body was partially inside the enclosure, held fast by Ranger's continued grip. It took 3 tranquilizer darts to subdue the mountain lion, enough for staff to safely recover her body. The investigation revealed the gap in the fencing and Grace's phone, which had recorded the final moments before the attack. The facility immediately implemented new safety protocols, including mandatory buddy systems for all animal care tasks, and Ranger was transferred to a more secure sanctuary facility designed for non-releasable predators. Grace's passion for big cats led to her downfall, but Jared Crossley's desire to prove his outdoor credentials put him in the path of a protective mother bear. It was September 3rd, 2018, and the Great Smoky Mountains were dressed in the early colors of autumn. The ancient peaks rolled endlessly toward the horizon, covered in a tapestry of green, just beginning to show hints of gold and red. The air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of pine and distant sounds of rushing water from hidden streams. It was peak hiking season, with thousands of visitors drawn to the park's trails and abundant wildlife viewing opportunities. Jared Crossley had been planning this hiking trip for months, eager to show his girlfriend Amanda the rugged outdoor lifestyle he'd been cultivating since moving to Nashville. The 31-year-old gym instructor had grown up in suburban Atlanta, but he reinvented himself as an outdoorsman after relocating to Tennessee. His social media was filled with hiking photos, camping gear reviews, and motivational posts about conquering nature's challenges. He'd convinced Amanda, a cautious accountant who preferred indoor activities, to join him for a weekend in the Smokies. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is home to approximately 1,500 black bears, making it one of the most densely populated bear habitats in North America. September is a critical time for bears as they enter hyperphagia, a period of intense feeding before winter hibernation. During this time, bears can consume up to 20,000 calories per day and become more aggressive in defending food sources and territory. Black bears are deceptively powerful animals, capable of reaching speeds of 30 miles per hour and climbing trees with remarkable agility. Adult females typically weigh between 200 and 300 pounds, while males can exceed 600 pounds. Their claws are up to 4 inches long and designed for digging and climbing, but they are equally effective as weapons. Mother bears with cubs are considered among the most dangerous animals in North America due to their fierce protective instincts. The couple had been hiking for about 2 hours when Jared decided they needed to find a more scenic location for photos. Against Amanda's protests, he led them off the designated path and into a dense section of the forest where few hikers ventured. They'd been bushwhacking through thick undergrowth for about 20 minutes when they emerged into a small clearing surrounded by berry bushes and fallen logs. About 30 yards away, a small black bear cub was foraging among the berry bushes, its glossy coat shining in the dappled sunlight. The cub appeared to be alone, focused entirely on its feeding, and seemed oblivious to the human presence nearby. Jared immediately pulled out his phone and began moving closer to the cub, ignoring Amanda's urgent whispers to stay back. What Jared didn't realize was that mother bears often leave their cubs in safe locations while they forage nearby. The mother bear had been feeding in dense brush less than 50 yards away, well within the protective range she maintained around her offspring. When she heard unfamiliar sounds and caught the scent of humans approaching her cub, her maternal instincts triggered an immediate and violent response. Jacob had crouched down about 10 feet from the cub, holding his phone at arm's length to capture both himself and the young bear in the frame. The cub looked up from its feeding, tilted its head curiously at the strange human, and took a few steps closer. The mother bear exploded from the undergrowth without warning, her 250-pound frame moving with shocking speed and agility. She covered the 30 yards between her hiding spot and the perceived threat in less than 3 seconds, her powerful legs propelling her forward in a blur of black fur and muscle. Her roar shattered the peaceful silence of the forest as she launched herself at the human who dared to threaten her cub. Jared was still crouched with his phone extended when the mother bear hit him from behind. The impact knocked him face first into the forest floor, his phone flying into the underbrush as 250 pounds of enraged bear landed on his back. Her claws raked across his shoulders and neck, tearing through his hiking shirt and deep into muscle tissue. The bear's jaws clamped down on the back of Jared's neck, her powerful bite crushing vertebrae and severing his spinal cord. Her canine teeth penetrated deep into his neck and skull. Jared's body went limp as his nervous system was severed. But the bear continued her attack, driven by the primal need to eliminate any threat to her offspring. Amanda screamed and ran, crashing through the underbrush as she fled toward the main trail. Behind her, she could hear the sounds of the continuing attack. The bear's huffing and growling mixed with the horrible sounds of claws and teeth tearing through flesh and bone. Park rangers responded within 20 minutes, but they had to wait for additional backup and tranquilizer equipment before approaching the scene. When they finally reached the clearing, they found Jared's body severely mauled, with the mother bear and her cub nowhere to be seen. Emergency medical personnel confirmed that Jared had died from massive trauma to his neck and spinal cord. Park officials launched an investigation to locate the mother bear using tracking dogs and helicopter surveillance. After careful evaluation by wildlife biologists, officials determined that the bear had acted defensively to protect their offspring and posed no ongoing threat to park visitors. The decision was made not to euthanize the animal. Jared's encounter with a protective mother ended tragically, but Warren Elkins discovered that even seemingly docile reptiles can become deadly predators in an instant. It was July 27, 2017, and the Florida Everglades shimmered under the brutal summer sun like a vast green mirror. The temperature had already climbed past 90 degrees by mid-morning, and the humidity made the air feel thick enough to swim through. This was the heart of one of America's most unique and dangerous ecosystems, where sawgrass prairies stretched endlessly toward the horizon, and dark water channels wound through cypress hammocks like liquid shadows. Warren Elkins had been retired for just 6 months, and he was determined to make the most of his newfound freedom. The 67-year-old former civil engineer from Ohio had spent 40 years designing bridges and highways, but his true passion had always been photography. He'd recently joined an online wildlife photography forum where members shared tips, locations, and their most spectacular shots. The forum had been buzzing about the Everglades, with several photographers posting stunning images of alligators, birds, and other wildlife. The Everglades ecosystem is built around water, a slow-moving river of grass that flows from Lake Okeechobee to Florida Bay. During summer months, water levels drop significantly, concentrating wildlife around remaining pools and channels. This creates exceptional opportunities for wildlife viewing, but it also increases danger as predators become more territorial and aggressive while competing for limited resources. American alligators are perfectly adapted killing machines, capable of reaching lengths of 14 feet and weights exceeding 1,000 pounds. Their powerful jaws can snap shut with a force of almost 3,000 pounds per square inch, enough to crush a turtle shell or break human bones like twigs. They're ambush predators that can remain motionless for hours before exploding into action, capable of launching themselves completely out of the water to catch prey. Warren had driven down from his winter home in Tampa armed with a new digital camera and determination to capture the perfect alligator photograph. He'd spent hours studying online tutorials and forum posts, learning about the best locations and techniques for wildlife photography in the Everglades. His plan was simple: find a large alligator sunning itself on the bank, set up his tripod at a safe distance, and capture the kind of dramatic close-up that would earn respect from his online photography community. He'd been walking along the canal for about an hour when he spotted what appeared to be the perfect subject: a massive alligator at least 10 feet long, lying motionless on the opposite bank about 50 yards away. Warren found a section where the fence had been damaged by recent storms, creating a gap just wide enough for a person to squeeze through. He made his way carefully toward the canal's edge, setting up his tripod about 20 feet from the water. The alligator across the canal remained motionless, and Warren began taking photos, adjusting his settings and composition. But he wasn't satisfied with the angle. He needed to get lower, closer to the water level, to create the dramatic perspective he was envisioning. What Warren didn't realize was that a second alligator had been lying submerged in the canal just a few feet away from where he was setting up his equipment. The murky water provided perfect camouflage, and the alligator had been monitoring the unusual activity on the bank with growing interest. Warren was adjusting his tripod legs and preparing to take a selfie with the distant alligator in the background when a hidden predator struck. The 12-foot alligator exploded from the water with shocking speed and power, its massive jaws opening wide as it launched itself toward the crouching photographer. The alligator's jaws clamped down on Warren's right leg just above the knee, its 68 razor-sharp teeth penetrating deep into muscle and bone. The force of the bite shattered his femur and severed major arteries, causing immediate and massive blood loss. Warren screamed and fell backward, but the alligator maintained its grip and began its characteristic death roll, spinning rapidly in the water to disorient prey and tear away large chunks of flesh. The death roll dragged Warren into the canal, where the alligator's home field advantage became overwhelming. In the murky water, Warren couldn't see or breathe, and the alligator's powerful tail and body prevented any chance of escape. The predator's jaws released and repositioned several times, each bite targeting different parts of Warren's body as the attack continued. A group of tourists on the nearby boardwalk heard Warren's initial scream and saw the violent thrashing in the water. They immediately called 911 while trying to locate the source of the disturbance. By the time park rangers arrived with emergency equipment, the water had returned to its deceptively calm state. Rescue divers entered the water with extreme caution, using poles and hooks to search the murky canal bottom. Warren's body was recovered 3 hours later, approximately 50 yards downstream from where the attack had occurred. The medical examiner determined that Warren had died from massive trauma and blood loss caused by multiple alligator bites. Park officials used the incident to reinforce safety messaging and increase enforcement of restricted area boundaries. New fencing was installed along popular photography locations, and warning signs were updated with more graphic language about the dangers of approaching alligators. Warren learned too late that alligators are patient hunters, but Lacey Darnell discovered that even captive lions retain all their predatory instincts. It was March 12, 2015, and Texas Hill County stretched endlessly under a brilliant blue sky. The drive-through safari park sat on 200 acres of rolling grassland about an hour west of San Antonio, where visitors could experience African wildlife without leaving the Lone Star State. The facility marketed itself as an authentic safari experience, with lions, zebras, giraffes, and other exotic animals roaming in large enclosures that visitors could drive through in their own vehicles. Lacey Darnell and her boyfriend Marcus had been road tripping across Texas for a week, hitting every quirky attraction and Instagram-worthy location they could find. The 26-year-old social media manager from Austin lived for these spontaneous adventures, and her followers had come to expect a constant stream of exciting content from her travels. She and Marcus were known for their willingness to take risks for the perfect shot. They'd bungee jumped in New Zealand, swam with sharks in Mexico, and climbed abandoned buildings for rooftop photos. The drive-through safari concept relies on the principle that most large predators view vehicles as single, non-threatening entities rather than containers full of potential prey. Years of conditioning have taught captive lions to ignore cars and trucks, treating them as part of the landscape rather than sources of food. However, this conditioning breaks down immediately when humans exit vehicles or extend body parts outside the protective metal barrier. African lions are apex predators with incredible strength and lightning-fast reflexes. Adult males can weigh up to 420 pounds and reach lengths of 10 feet from nose to tail. Their powerful jaws contain teeth designed for gripping and tearing flesh, with canines that can grow up to 3 inches long. Lions are capable of leaping horizontally up to 36 feet and can accelerate from 0 to 35 miles per hour in just a few strides. The couple have been driving through the park for about 30 minutes, following a winding dirt road that took them past various animal enclosures. As they entered the lion area, Marcus slowed their rental car to a crawl, allowing Lacey to take photos through the passenger window. A large male lion with a magnificent dark mane was walking parallel to the road, about 20 feet from their vehicle. Lacey had been taking pictures through the closed window, but the glass was creating glare and reflections that ruined her shots. She'd seen other visitors with their windows cracked open and assumed it was acceptable as long as they didn't get too close to the animals. Marcus brought the car to a complete stop as the male lion approached their section of road. Lacey rolled down her passenger window about halfway and began taking photos, initially keeping her camera and hands inside the vehicle. But the shots weren't quite right. She needed a better angle to capture both herself and the lion in the same frame. She extended her phone outside the window, holding it at arm's length while leaning partially out of the car. The male lion's demeanor changed instantly when Lacey's upper body emerged from the vehicle. His casual walk became a focused stalk, his amber eyes locking on to the human shape that had suddenly appeared in his territory. Every muscle in his powerful frame tensed as predatory instincts that had been dormant for years suddenly roared back to life. The lion launched himself at the car window with explosive power, his front paws hitting the door frame as his jaws targeted Lacey's exposed torso. His massive weight and momentum drove her backward into the car, but his claws found purchase on her shoulders and arms, preventing her from escaping back inside the vehicle. His jaws clamped down on her neck and upper chest, his 4-inch canine teeth penetrating deep into vital organs and major blood vessels. Marcus grabbed Lacey's legs and tried desperately to pull her back into the car, but the lion's grip was unbreakable. The predator's powerful neck muscles allowed him to maintain his hold while using his body weight to drag his prey toward the window opening. Blood began flowing immediately as the lion's teeth found arteries and his claws raked across Lacey's back and shoulders. The attack lasted less than 30 seconds, but the damage was catastrophic. The lion's bite had crushed Lacey's windpipe and severed her carotid artery, causing massive blood loss and preventing her from breathing. Her struggles weakened rapidly as shock and oxygen deprivation took their toll, and within moments she went limp in the predator's jaws. Park staff responded immediately when they heard Marcus's screams for help. 2 rangers arrived in an emergency vehicle equipped with air horns, flares, and other deterrent devices. The loud noises and sudden activity caused the lion to release his grip and back away from the car. Emergency medical personnel were called immediately, but Lacey was already beyond help. The lion's attack had caused injuries that were incompatible with life, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. The incident prompted an immediate investigation by state wildlife authorities and resulted in significant changes to the park's safety protocols. Lacey underestimated a captive lion's predatory instincts, But Connor Keene learned that even smaller primates can be deadly when provoked. It was April 30th, 2015, and the Oklahoma countryside was alive with spring. The private exotic animal compound sat on 40 acres of rolling pasture land outside Oklahoma City, home to dozens of rescued animals from circuses and failed roadside attractions. The facility operated under special permits, housing everything from big cats to primates. Connor Keene was the kind of 16-year-old who lived for attention and laughs. The high school junior from nearby Edmond was known as the class clown, always ready with pranks that would get classmates laughing and teachers frustrated. His social media accounts were filled with increasingly dangerous challenges designed to generate views and comments. Connor was visiting with two friends, guests of the facility's owner's nephew. The adults had gone to prepare evening feeding, leaving the teenagers alone with strict instructions to stay in designated areas and avoid animal contact. But Connor had never been good at following rules, especially when there was opportunity to create impressive content. Chimpanzees are among the most dangerous animals in captivity, despite their portrayal as cute, human-like creatures. Adult chimps are incredibly strong, with muscle density nearly twice that of humans and ability to generate bone-breaking forces. They possess powerful arms with tremendous gripping strength, and teeth include large canines designed for fighting. Most importantly, chimpanzees are highly intelligent and emotional animals that become aggressive when stressed or threatened. The compound's chimpanzee was a 30-year-old male named Caesar who had been retired from a traveling circus after becoming too aggressive for performance work. Years of captivity and forced human interaction had left him with behavioral issues, making him unpredictable and potentially dangerous. The friends had been exploring for an hour when they found Caesar's enclosure. The chimpanzee sat near the front, apparently relaxed and showing mild interest in his visitors. Connor immediately saw opportunity for viral content. He began making faces at the chimp, mimicking expressions while friends recorded with phones. Caesar initially seemed amused, but chimpanzees are highly sensitive to human body language. What Connor interpreted as playful interaction was actually increasing the animal's stress and agitation. The chimp's posture changed, shoulders tensed, lips pulled back, eyes taking on intense focus. Connor escalated his performance, making louder noises and exaggerated gestures while moving closer to the cage bars. The final trigger came when Connor pressed his face close to the bars and made exaggerated kissing sounds while holding his phone for a close-up selfie. Caesar exploded into action with shocking speed. His powerful arm shot through the cage bars and clamped around Connor's wrist with crushing force. The chimp's grip strength immediately fractured bones in Connor's forearm as Caesar began pulling the teenager toward the cage with irresistible force. Connor's phone flew from his hand as he was yanked against metal bars. Caesar's other hand emerged, grabbing Connor's shoulder and hair while powerful arms worked to drag the screaming teenager closer. The chimp's face contorted with rage, lips pulled back revealing large canine teeth. Caesar's jaws found Connor's face and neck as the teenager was pressed against the cage bars. The chimp's canine teeth punctured Connor's jaw and cheek, fracturing bone and tearing through muscle tissue. Blood flowed immediately as Caesar's bite crushed Connor's mandible and severed facial nerves and blood vessels. The chimpanzee's attack was methodical and devastating. After securing his grip on Connor's head and neck, Caesar began using powerful hands to tear at the teenager's arms and shoulders. His fingers found soft tissue and began ripping away chunks of flesh and muscle. Caesar's teeth found Connor's neck, delivering a crushing bite that severed his carotid artery and caused massive hemorrhaging. Connor's friends ran screaming toward the main buildings to find help. The facility owner and staff arrived within minutes, armed with fire extinguishers and deterrent devices. But by the time they reached the enclosure, Connor was already beyond help. It took several minutes and multiple deterrent methods to convince Caesar to release his grip. The incident prompted immediate investigation by state wildlife authorities and resulted in the facility losing permits to house dangerous animals. Caesar was relocated to a specialized primate sanctuary with enhanced security measures. The facility owner faced criminal charges for allowing unsupervised access to dangerous animals. Connor's death sent shockwaves through his high school community and sparked discussions about the dangers of social media-driven risk-taking among teenagers. His family struggled with grief and guilt, wondering if they could have done more to curb his dangerous attention-seeking behavior. Connor learned too late that primates can be deadly when provoked. Thanks for watching. Just when you think that the perfect selfie is worth the risk, we're just getting started. Click the next video for more stories that'll make you think twice before getting too close to nature's most dangerous predators.